afternoon. Welcome to HackNITR 3.0. Getting started with Savo SDK workshop. HackNITR 3.0 is here to give a plethora of fun events, workshops, and 36-hour hackathon for hackers all around the world. We have more than 2,000 registrations till now, and a lot of our audience here are building awesome stuff about a lot of separate problems, and I'm sure this workshop by Mr. Abhishek Chandrasenan will help and embrace all the hackers. He is a full stack developer at Savo Labs, and now he will grace the session. Over to you, Mr. Abhishek.
Hey, hi guys. Uh, Thank you, Isha, so much for the introduction. I wanna take this opportunity to thank Hack and ITR 3.0 also to thank. So my name is Abhishek. I work as a full stack dev in Savo Labs, but I majorly look after the front end part of the product. So it's very good to be here on a Saturday afternoon, and thanks. So let me just start over with Savo Labs, how it all started. So almost a year and a month ago, the company started with just 2 employees, and a year and a month later, we are looking at 54 employees and funding of $9.5 million, which we raised $8.5 million very recently. And we are trying to expand our team, more 30 more people by the end of this year. So it's good to be part of this company. So I'll just, won't take much time, and I'll straight away, get started with the whole thing. So I'll be sharing my screen. Uh, okay, just a second, guys. Yes. Okay, so this is basically our website that tells all about what Savo Labs is. So you should go check over savolabs.com to enter the site. So what Savo Lab tries to do is we want to make the authentication more simple, because as we know that authentication is one of the most difficult part of doing in a project. So we are trying to eliminate that tedious work, and we are trying to make the journey smooth. So so I mean, the reasons that why you should choose Savo is because we provide biometric authentication. It improves your bounce rate by almost 54%, and it's multi-platform. And you go to the website. So if you integrate, so if you have done authentication, trying to authenticate or try to build that auth part of your project, you know how tedious that is. And with Savo, it just takes 6 minutes of your time, and it's just 6 lines of code if you code in React. So that is about it. So the 6 lines of code that I was mentioning was this particular set of code that would just get you started with authenticating. I would be going much deeper into this particular 6 lines of code. So these are some of the few platforms that as of now we provide. So we have WordPress plugin, we have Shopify, we have WooCommerce, and we have much more coming on the way. So so as I said, the authentication, that's a very difficult part. You can either choose 6 days, which we don't do that here, or you can go do the auth in like 6 minutes. So that is about the very basic thing, and these are the navbar links that would take you to the documentation, which I'll be taking in a bit. And we have also resources that talks about general or general tech, and we have pricing about how you can use. So as a free plan, we provide 5,000 odds per month. But as we have tied up with NITR, hack NITR, we would be giving you 10,000 authentications, and the organizers would be definitely be sharing the link. But organizers, please take a note to share the link that would get them for the 10,000 odd. So these are the very basic things, what actually Savo Labs is about. And you have both like simple dark mode and light mode. As I prefer dark mode. So that is about this basic what Savo Labs is. So now I would be taking you to the documentation page. Okay, let me just take a moment to change the screens. Give me a moment. Yes, share screens, getting started with it. Okay, I hope that you guys can see the documentation page. So once you hop into the documentation page, you will get to see what actually Savo is and how is it different from other social logins or authentication. So it is just basically a one-step process that takes 0.06 seconds to get you authenticated. So this is basically the work, the flow of the product. Imagine this is your platform and this is a Sour SDK and this is the code, the 6 lines of code, and voila, you have the login page. So you might be wondering how we do it. So once a user tries to log in, a two key is generated. One is a public key and the one is a private key. And once you try to log in, you uses a challenge to verify that it is you or not. And the fun fact is that Savo is based on a few protocols, which adds another layer that you don't have to worry about it. And you can go through this documentation page to know why you should choose Savo. So as of now, we provide multiple tech stacks where you can integrate Sabo with. So these are the very few, you have support for React, Angular, Vue, and you have Node.js support, and we have also native Android and iOS also, and we also provide no code platforms in Bubble and WordPress as of now. So now I'll be taking through, if you're using React, how you can integrate your product. So once you go to this particular site, you can see a video which is basically a walkthrough of how you get integrated. But now I'll be taking more of a live session. So I hope you know about the npm packages in Node. So we have Savo npm package which can be installed using this particular uh, line code. And once you do that, you have Savo in a particular project. And wherever you wanna integrate Savo, you have to just import the Savo package from the libraries. And once you do that, so this workflow happens when you use the dashboard also. So I'll be taking you through that dashboard in like a few minutes. So in dashboard, you can make a project. So once you make a project, you will get an API key, which is one of the most important stuff that helps you authenticate, helps you verify that is your particular project. And so I mean, if you have tried integrating any of the or if you have built projects, you would know that there are basically two phases of it. One is the development phase and one is the production phase. So we have there's some change of configuration that you have to do when you're doing development and when you are in production. So there is a particular field called host name, where if you are using development, you have to put the host name as local host. Suppose if the local host is not working, you can use this 127.0.0.1, which essentially is a local host itself. And suppose if you have put your code live, you should be on the host name, you should be setting your domain. So the thing that we get a lot of queries is, so what is actually a domain name, or how you should actually fill it. Suppose if you've hosted your final website is in this link, https colon hyphen slash slash dev.savolabs.com. If you enter this, the code won't work. So you have to make sure that you enter the host name without HTTPS or the backslashes, and it should be as simple as just the host name. So you would get the API key, which I would be definitely taking in the in next few minutes, and you would be getting to know what API key is. So the best practice, so we do not want our API key to be exposed into our code base so that everyone can see. So we actually recommend you to store the API key in an env file so that it is very safe and secure. So how we try to integrate this particular Savo product is we provide you with SDK, software development kit. So it is basically it is basically an iframe that loads. So you should give the space of the particular iframe. That so now as of now, this is a particular line of code where in this particular width and height your Savo SDK would load. So in this, so by the default, the only field that you get is either number or an email ID to fill. Suppose if you want to take name of a particular person, so you can also add custom fields in the dashboard, which I will be again taking in like few minutes. So once you start adding each custom field, you have to make sure that you increase your height by 50 pixel. I mean, suppose if you've added a name as an additional custom field. So your base height is 300 pixels. You have to increase it by 350 pixels. So that is how it would exactly render in the correct space. And the next thing is the most important part of your integration is a config variable. So this is basically an object that contains the important stuff that helps you render the iframe. So container ID essentially is basically it is targeting the particular container ID where it has to be loaded. So in this case, the container ID would be Savo hyphen container. So identifier type essentially means ki, do you want your users to log in through either phone number or email. So suppose if you want to users to log in through the phone number, you can put the identifier type as phone number and underscore number I underscore SMS. Or if you want your customers to use email, you can just type in email in this field. So this is as I mentioned, the API key that you get from when you make a project. So you can either put the API key as raw as you find it, or you can store it in the env file and make use of it. And once on success, you will get a payload, which I'll be taking in like a minute now. So once that is done, you have the configuration of your particular project set in your product. So next you actually initialize, make a instance of Savo, and you do that by this particular as you have already seen, this Savo is basically the one that we imported on the top of the file, which actually helps you configure it. So this particular code would help. This particular code is what calls the iframe and loads it in your particular div. So once you've done all of this correctly, the login module would look something like this. Okay, this is the the completed version of that particular code base. So once you are have completely sorted and you have done everything correctly, this is how the web SDK would load. Suppose if you're choosing the phone number, this is what you would be, that your users would be seeing. And if you use number and email, this particular display would come up. So this is basically the basic React, with the npm package, and we have also made a component based with. If you know what a component is in React, you would know how easy it is to actually initialize it. So you would not even need 6 lines of code also. So please do check out the sample code and the deployed app. I will be taking you through the code of a project that I've made, and that would get you get a better idea of Savo as a product. So next, one of the most important thing is what do you do? So once you try to log in and you are successfully authenticated, you get a payload. So the next question is, what do you do with the payload? Uh, yeah. So as we don't store any of your data, once you log in, your detail comes as a payload. So you can, so this is how a dummy payload looks like. This is a user ID which is unique to you, and this is basically the date, that this was made. And as I told you, the identifier type. Suppose if you have now here the identifier type is email, so the identifier comes as the particular email ID, and this is the verification token that helps in authenticating you. So suppose if you have put, so by default this custom input field object would be an empty, but if you have added the a custom input field, you would get these particular data which can be utilized in whatever way you want. So these are the small explanation of how or what the dummy payload is. Please take a look at it. So basically there are very basic three things that you can do with your payload. Suppose if you want to store the data that comes in the payload to your database, you can do that also. Or suppose you want to just maintain a session, you can make use of that also. And if you want to feed the data into CRM, you have an option, because as it's a JSON object, you have the liberty to choose whatever you want. So so this is where what happens when you are freshly integrating to a server. Suppose you already have an existing login or an authentication system and you want to migrate from passwords to servers passwordless. So in this you will find why do you have to migrate to server. So basically the simple funda is to whatever your current login component is, you remove or you replace that with the server SDK that we just explored now. And you would, so once that setup is done, you would get the payload. And once you get the payload, you can whatever that you were doing with your previous login component, you can do that, either saving the database or maintaining your sessions or feeding into your CRM. That is up to your personal choice. So these are the very basic stuff that you can check it out in the documentation side of it. So yeah, that is about the basic how what to do with the payload that comes in, and what the whole thing is about. Now I'll take you deep into the dashboard part of it, where you can make a project and where you can take it forward. So let me just take a moment to change the tab. Uh, yes. Uh, okay. So this is basically that the dashboard that that gives you the control of whatever you want to do with the the server SDK. So I'm going to log in. Yes, as I've not already signed in, I'll just take a moment to uh, log in. Yeah, so this is another thing that when you try to integrate Savo, that asks, do we want to trust this browser or not? Suppose if you trust this browser as a default state, you get 15 days of cooldown period where it asks for your password again. So as I trust my browser, I'm going to trust this, and yes, that takes you to uh, your dashboard. So these are a few of the projects that I have made. So I will just take you to take you through the top. So this actually gives you the overall data analysis of how much auth has been consumed. So I think yes. So these are, you can either choose on daily basis, yearly basis. So that is up to on how you want to see the data. So these are the few of the number of auths that my products have been using. So suppose if you want to upgrade your plan from 5,000 auths to more, you can do that also. And if you want to download the report of how many auths have people consumed on what project, on what timeline, you can use this particular report button to get a whole idea of it. and this gives you a pie chart of how many auths that a person has used. So you can see it on an individual level also, that how many auths have been used. So that gives you an overall view of how many auths or what is the data that your particular project has used. And next, coming down to the projects page, you will see, you will see all your projects that you have made using this particular the dashboard. And this is a unique ID that identifies your project. And I hope you remember the host name part of it, where I mentioned that if you are trying to run your project locally, you have to make sure that the host name is localhost. And if your product is in live, make sure that it only has the the domain name with no backslash or https. And this is the most important thing that you should consider. That is the API key that you get, that helps you actually get you through the setting up of the web SDK. Now I'll just show you how you can make a project. So there's a button called create new project. Once you tap that, you have the different choices of, make sure to explore all of these, as we are providing you with 10,000, or it is actually a huge number, and that gets replenished every month. So make sure that you explore as much as you can. So these are basically what this. So I will be making a web app which I'll be using this. So once you go through this, you will also see the sample code of how you can do it. So once I select which particular project do I want. So for now I want a web based with the code. So Bubble and WordPress are the no code platforms, but I want to use a coded platform. So I'm going to select that, and I get all these basic instructions of how to do it. So once I want to get my project started, I press on the continue button, which asks me for what should be the project name. So I'm gonna give it as HackNITR uh, uh, project. Yeah. So once that is done, it would ask for your host name. So I would be doing this in a local host, so I'm gonna put as local host. So we also have a new feature that we added very recently, that is a beta access. Suppose if you're you don't want everyone to log into your platform, you can actually add a Google sheet which only contains the people, the email ID or the phone number that you want them to bypass through. And once you give that sheets link, it only authenticates the people, or it only authorizes the people to get you through it, and all the others won't be accepted. So once you make a project by creating this, uh, you would get a download pop-up of to store your private key. So once that is done, you can do that. So you scroll down, you will see all these data, the ID of the project, the host name, the API key. So that gives you, and the important things of what the project is. And now the most fun part of it, I mean, how your project should look like. So I'm going to select this. Okay. So now here I can choose either I want phone number or email ID, and this is basically the preview of how your, the web SDK is going to look. So you can, choose this or this to get a view of how, this looks like. And we have also added Google reCAPTCHA to make sure that no unwanted bots or other things get into your login. So you can do that, and Google reCAPTCHA would be enabled. And I hope you remember I mentioned about the custom form fields that you want to add a name. Suppose I want to add name in my product, and I'm going to choose the text. Once I save it, you can see that the we now have a name field also. So this is exactly how in the web SDK it is going to load. And now if you want, I can delete it also. So that refreshes every time you do it. And once that is done, these are the configurations of how your what should be like, suppose by default the cooldown period is 15 days. You can it you have to make sure, okay, the value is integer. So the 1 day would mean you after a day or 24 hours, he or they would be asked to get an OTP again to confirm that is you itself. So these are basically how the email should go like, or how the OTP that goes to your phone should look like. So you also have a field where you can put your company logo in so when you put a link of an image, this welcome to Savala would change to whatever logo that you have put as of now. And as I already mentioned, that you can access the beta. You can enable the beta access by only selecting, or by only making sure either only a few people get access to your product. So that is an overview of how the forms and fields work. And now so the design part of it, as in how your project should look like. So as of now, we have four themes that you can use. We have light black, which is one of my favorites, but this dark theme looks dope. So these are some of the few customizations that you can make, and you can customize each and every component of this particular iframe that loads. You can put this in red, so that would become red, which does not actually look good. So I'm going to revert it back to white. And you can change your border color. I'm this is very self-explanatory of how it is working. So yeah, so these are all the design part of it, as in how your web SDK should look like. And you can put your company logo URL here also. And suppose if you have your own different set of privacy policy, you can enable that, and you can select what color it should have. And that is pretty much about the design part of it. So this is a referral one. So you would not have to enter your code here. The organizers would be sharing you a link where you would be redirected to whatever email ID you have, and you will get 10,000 odds. Organizers, I'm requesting you to please share the link in the chats and on the Discord channel. So this is again the the documentation that would redirect you to the documentation page that we just saw earlier. And this is again the feedback. Please, once you start integrating your product, please let us know by filling this feedback form. How was your experience? Good, bad, whatever that is. We are trying to improve our product as much as we can. So this is how the whole dashboard looks like. So you log in, you make a project, you put the host name as local host if you are doing it on a local machine. And yeah, that is pretty much about how you can get started with making a project. So I'm going to take you through a project that I've made for myself. So I'm gonna share that particular code base, and then I take you directly to how easy it is in production. So just a moment, guys, so that I can share the code base. Oh, yep. Okay. I hope that you guys can, see my screen. I'm taking a moment to, make sure it is visible to you. Yep. So a fun tip is that if you are in Visual Studio Code, and I find it very difficult to traverse through the GitHub UI. So if you press the dot button on your keyboard, it actually opens a VS Code web editor. So that is something that you can look at it. So this is a basic IP tracker project that I made, which just tracks your particular IP address in the first go, and then whatever value you put, that will be pointed to that particular IP address. So I have integrated Savo with it. So once you do the npm install of Savo, you can have this particular line of code which import the Savo instance, and then with this particular code base you would set the configuration file of it. I have chosen the email as my identifier type, and the container name is Savo container, which you can see it here. So this is particularly the div where my iframe loads, and I have not exposed my key. I have stored it in the env file uh, in my local machine. Once you host it in Heroku, Netlify, Vercel, wherever you want to, you will have a place in the deployment section where you can add a particular config variable or an environment variable where you have to just make sure that the key value pair is whatever value you put and the API key there. So here what I've done with the payload is that I have stored the payload in my local storage, and I'm storing the section here. So that helps me with the cookie management and all that stuff. So in one of my other projects, I stored the payload into my backend via an API called using Node.js. So once you put this, you are good to go with the login. So this is how easy it is to actually integrate Savo. So this is the code of it, and I'll be sharing you the live project that I made. So let me take a moment to share the screen. Yes. I hope my screen is visible. So this is as simple as it is. I have an email ID. I put that as if already logged in. It might automatically log me in. Yes, it automatically did. Okay, I think my IP address tracker might not work. Yeah. Oh, did work. Cool. Cool. So this is basically, the current IP address location that I'm in. Suppose if I want to put Google. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, did work. Cool. So it takes you, to whatever IP location that you're giving in. So this is a very basic project to, to get you started with how you can integrate it. And what I've done is once you press the logout button, it clears the cookie and the cache and the data in the local storage, and you will be logged out. So it says a pop-up which goes like, you will be logged out, and once you put it, you are back to your home page. So this is, as easy as it looks like. Make sure, you try to integrate a product. It is very easy, and as you have 10,000 alt, it is the best, chance to explore more of every stack that we provide. And yes, that is it from my end. So yes. Yeah. Isha.
Yes, sorry, Riva. Yeah, that was really a great presentation and slide. Now here we have some questions from the audience. Let's answer them. Someone is asking, is it compatible with Flutter?
Yeah. So once you go through a documentation, you can see that how you can integrate Savo with Flutter. So we have pub.dev where you know have the package. So please go through the docs.savelabs.com, and you would find on the left side Flutter, and you can see how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Second question we have. Can we use multiple host names in IP type tracker?
Uh, I'm sorry, I did not understand the question. If if someone could have a better explanation of the question, because IP Tracker is my personal project, so multiple host names in a personal project, I'm not able to understand. So if someone could get it, this thing, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Next is how to implement backend after generating API.
Okay, so I think what he's trying to ask is कि, how can you integrate the payload that comes after you log in to your backend? So as I told you, the payload that you get is a JSON object that can be used in multiple ways. Either you can store it in a database, so you just have to make sure कि you have a post endpoint as a rest. I hope the person who's asking knows about making an API endpoint. So you have to make sure that you make a post endpoint and make sure that the data that comes from the payload goes through that particular API, and that gets stored on your database. I hope the question is
Yes, I hope it's clearly answered. And second is after successful login to make how to make the page load to a new one in React using server.
Okay, let me just read you the question again. After successful login, how to make the page load to a new one in React when using Savo? Oh, so please correct me if I'm wrong. So I am assuming that your question is how to redirect once you log in through the Savo. Once gets, is it authenticated or is it something else? So once we have a clarity on that, I can answer that question.
Yeah, next one is how to verify user data once I receive payload. Is there a facility to do the same from server
Yes,
and
yes.
React?
Yes. So we we have been getting being asked this feature a lot. So in like a week we are actually doing that. We would be giving the user or the B part of the company to actually a API endpoint where you can verify the user, that you get to make sure that the person who is authenticating is the same itself. Yeah.
Yeah, hope it's down
Yeah.
clear. Next is when I use the HTML SDK, how can I send the payload receipt in the front end to the backend after successful authentication?
Okay. So in HTML also, the way you initialize the Savo SDK is using a script tag. So in that script tag, as simple as I mentioned earlier, you should have a post endpoint where you can put the data and you can just post it there. So yeah, there is a in the var config there is something called on success, and that gives a callback function. So in that callback function, you have to make sure that you put that particular endpoint, where you want to store the data, and you just pass the data and that goes to your database. Yes.
Yeah, that's all very good.
Okay.
And
And
thank you for today's
yeah,
session. Yeah. No, no,
it's
continue.
been my pleasure. So another thing is we have a wonderful community, that revolves around Savo. That we do not just talk about our product, but we talk about everything in the tech industry that is happening, and we have a dedicated channel for people who are facing troubles with integrating. So I would be personally there to assist you with whatever help you need. So once you go to asavolabs.com, you would see a particular link called community. Through to make sure that you go to the community, you join the Discord family. We are over 5,000 people in the Discord family now, so you won't be left alone for sure. So we have a lot of people to help you with whatever help you need. So make sure you join that community, ask questions, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Yes.
Yeah, today's session was really great. It was great having you with us. And the presentation was really great.
Okay, thank you so much, Isha, and I would like to thank Hack and NITR for giving me an actual opportunity to talk to young minds and give a presentation. So yes, make sure you make use of the 10,000 auth that we provide, and have a happy coding life. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really great. So thank you for joining in. Now next session we have at yeah next session we have at 4 p.m. It is by MLS TV events. Okay. Bye for now, Krishna.
Okay. It's bye bye. Take care.